Welcome to episode 3 of Antarang, which is a podcast series by Industrial Relations Committee IIM Sambalpur. I am your host Sarthak Sharma. Welcome to another episode of Antarang 2.0, a podcast series by Industry Relations Committee IIM Sambalpur. It's very pleasure to welcome our guest Mr. Satyajit Senapati sir, who is a leadership practitioner and a mentor with 20 plus years of experience across consulting, strategy, and transformation. And I am Lucknow alumnus. He has worked with the global firms including KPMG, Deloitte, and Accenture. Currently, he is the founder of Focus Minds Consulting. He is also a TEDx speaker, visiting faculty, and a best selling author of 3 books. He helps professionals, organizations, and students navigate the career transitions, build leadership capability, and bridge the gap between academia and industry. Very warm welcome to our podcast, sir.
Thank you so much, Sarthak, for inviting me in this prestigious podcast.
So let's start with your I saw your career journey. I'm looking back at your journey from like software engineer to consulting, leadership, and entrepreneurship, which you are currently on to by Focus Consulting. So like, what was the inflection point where you realized that I should navigate my career this way? Like this is a such a transformational journey. No one could really plan. Like at this point, if I am a software engineer, I cannot plan like this way I will be in consulting, and at this stage I will be starting my own venture. Might be
Right,
so.
right. I think it's a very interesting question. So, if you look at my career journey, right, and you have rightly pointed it out, there are two specific points of inflections. The first is when I cut over from being an IT professional to a consulting professional, and thereafter grew in the job industry, moving across different companies, both management consulting and industry conglomerates. And then the second point of inflection happened when I moved from corporate jobs into an entrepreneurial journey,
Hmm.
right? Both these had their own set of conditions and context, which basically made this journey possible. So let's talk about the first one. When I was in IT, of course, I started out with coding and
Yes.
designing and so on and so forth. But a chance opportunity to get into a technology excellence group basically exposed me to the idea of business development. I did a lot of pre-sales, a lot of business development work, and that's when I realized that while I'm doing this more intuitively, what if I have a structure like an MBA, which can help me, do this at a more predictable manner, in a more scalable manner, and in a more consistent manner, right? And I could probably, to be very honest, was looking at making a quicker jump across the hierarchy. Now that was the primary reason why I went ahead and did my MBA. But while I was doing my MBA, I understood what MBA had to offer, and it changed my perspective drastically. And that's when I realized that consulting is probably, the cup of tea for me. And so it happened. I cracked consulting jobs from the campus itself, and I was placed in Deloitte. Then one job to another, one country to another, one engagement to another, and things kept on happening and happening. At one point of time, there was a career choice I had to make, and I moved from consulting to industry. I started becoming part of strategy teams of large conglomerates. I worked with Reliance, I worked with Novartis in various internal strategy roles. But again, in 2021, there was a life event, which is where I had to face triple setback in terms of my I lost my mother to COVID. Then I was very ill because of COVID, and as because of that, I was not able to continue my corporate job. And this three triads of setbacks basically changed my thought process in terms of doing something different. And that's where I felt that the inflection happened, and I went into my entrepreneurial journey, trying to create more impact with my work now.
Okay. So, sir, you were working at a very big position at the Accenture, managing director, right?
Mhm.
And the switch from that position to an setting up your entrepreneurs like own setup and own business with focus on consulting. So, like, what kind of skills are required, and what was the like financial plan of yours to like for the long term sustainability?
Right. A financial plan, as in the personal financial plan, is what you're talking about.
Like how you made the strategy, like this can work for me,
Mm-hmm.
or like we are very uncertain now, like we are very unsure how this setup will go on.
Okay,
So
again, another interesting question. And to be very honest, I had no clue what it would look like. When
mm,
I left my corporate job, I just had this idea that I want to do something which has to be more impactful. And with that intent, I started, because consulting was something I was doing. It came naturally to me. That was my natural extension. And I started looking out for opportunities in the consulting space, and that is how it happened. Yes, from a sustainability perspective, from a financial perspective, because I am from that industry,
mm,
I understand how the billing rates work, how
okay.
the projects are run, which was not a big concern for me. But personal finance, yes. Having worked for 20 years, I had planned my finances well, which is why
Hmm.
I was able to make this
Yes.
shift rather comfortably and seamlessly.
Like because I asked this because many of us have this similar question, and
Right.
we are with, like everyone wants to have a startup in the long run. So
Mm.
that's a very good answer of you, like
Mm.
how you overall plan.
But I
So
think, if I may interject, I think this is a very important point, because you mentioned the context now.
mm-hmm.
See, most of the people, the youngsters especially, they want to get into an entrepreneurship because they think that it is a source to independence.
Hmm.
It is not, because it is neither the job nor the entrepreneurship. There is competition everywhere.
Yes,
So if
definitely.
it's a job, you're competing to get the next role, the next promotion, so on and so forth. If it is entrepreneurship, you're competing with similar startups for valuation, for funding, for growth, so on and so forth. So the competition doesn't go away. The competition only shifts its shape and form, right? The question, the deeper question that we all should be asking ourselves is, if this competition is everywhere, the question is how fast you want to run, and
Hmm.
which one you want to run in. Whether you want to run in the job sector or you want to run in an
Yes.
entrepreneurship. That's the more fundamental question that people of
Oh.
your age background should be asking, about, whether they want to get into entrepreneurship.
So let's dive deep more, and this actually brings to the root question. Like we are all coming from the diverse background. Some are from commerce background, from science, engineering. So like we had a very limited exposure to the corporate of
Hmm.
2 years,
Hmm.
mostly 2 to 3 years here
Hmm.
at before joining our MBA program. So with such limited information, how should we decide like what we are up, like what we will fit in the best? Like there is marketing,
Hmm.
there is consulting, there is
Hmm.
finance, and such. Like if the decision taken at this stage, you know that sir, it will have a very serious repercussions going forward in the career.
Right.
Like what we build up, what we gain the skills. So let's dive deeper into the like similar aspect.
Hmm.
Like many of us coming from a different background, commerce,
Hmm.
science, engineering, and we have a very limited corporate exposure also. And honestly speaking, many of us are very confused regarding what domain should we get into, and it's a very critical choice considering
Hmm.
what we opt now is a very have a long term impact on our career. So like how should we decide we are built for the marketing, consulting, or finance, or
Hmm.
like what should be the thought process behind that?
Uh, it's again another very good question, right? So it is a question that has got the MBA guys grapple
Yes.
about it since eternity,
Forever.
right? If the first which batch would have struggled with it, and the current batch is struggling with it, and the batches that are going to come forward will also struggle with it, right? So let's try to answer it in
Hmm.
a clean way. Yeah, you will never know, to
Hmm.
be honest. Okay, you will never know. The question is, what can you do to make this discomfort a little bit less? One of the ways you can do is, you can talk to your alumni, people who have passed out from the college, who are already working. Talk to people who are like 3 4 years into the job industry. Take their insights. That's one way to do it. Second piece is gathering your own information. So internet is a vast information resource, right? Try to get as much information as possible. Try to figure out what kind of companies you'd like to get into, irrespective of domain, right? You would have heard about different companies, right? Somebody would say, I want to get into Google, I want to get into Facebook, I want to get into Deloitte, I want to get into McKinsey. So those kind of those companies will give you the type of companies that are there. Try to research some information around these companies, how they operate, how they don't operate. So for example, consulting companies, right? So typically when you get into consulting companies, they will assign you about two industries, one primary industry, one secondary industry. So this gives you a little bit of breadth to play around. So what you like, you can choose the second one. If you like more the secondary one, you like more, you can make it primary at a later point of time. So a lot of companies give you that exposure to dabble into multiple industries and figure out what works for you. But it may not be true for a purely marketing based company, right? So getting that information is very important, and that information in my mind can come from two resources. One is of course talking to your alumni about what could work, what has worked for them, what has not worked for them, and of course your own research, which is around knowing the company, knowing the people in those company. Try to build some network there, try to understand what works for them, what is it that they do. Try to understand the day in a life of a marketeer, the day in a life of a consultant, the day in a life of a finance person, because every job offers something unique. Some of it you may find appealing, some of it you may not find appealing, but at the end of the day, net what makes you satisfied is more important. So this could be a way to go about it.
That's really, honestly speaking, very reflective and practical answer. That can one can look upon, and that can surely help us confused MBA aspirants. So we have talked about your career and career confusion also. So one thing again, I observed your career that you were at a very high pressure roles
Yes.
at consulting firms also, and you in your life journey also there was some very high pressure moments that you yourself have revealed. And honestly speaking, one cannot face them without any pre-exposure to or have a skill set. Like, how did you balance the calmness and that you have currently while doing this podcast also? So how do you manage those pressure situation in job, in life, in general?
See, I firmly believe that no matter how much you do, there will be pressure, there will be stress,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
The question is, how do you manage it, right? So I can go on and go on and give you a lot of theory on this, but I want to give you something more practical. Okay, how do I do that? So I'll talk about something called as a stress bucket. So I
Okay.
imagine myself as a bucket. Yeah, what happens in this bucket? So there are stressors. So there could be this bad boss, there could be this high pressure project, there could be something in the family. So these are stressors that fill my bucket. Yeah. So what happens when it is continuously filled? At one point of time it will overflow. How does this overflow happen? This overflow happens in forms of anger,
Hmm.
in terms of you know becoming more introvert, inward. It happens in terms of health ailments, like that is how the overflow happens. Now typically in that bucket, what we typically do is we open some unhealthy taps,
Yes.
right? Social media
Definitely.
scrolling. Yeah. What else? Overeating. So those who smoke, they over smoke. Yeah. All these kinds of unhealthy taps we open. Okay. Instead of so what happens? Unhealthy taps, if you open, the temporarily the water will get out of it, the
Hmm.
stress will get out of it, but it will again feed into the bucket
Hmm.
again. Yeah.
Same goes with going without sleep also.
Right. Sleeplessness. Yes, that's another one. What you need to do is you need to open some healthy habits
Yes.
or healthy taps. What are healthy taps? Of course, they're very boring. Like mindful meditation, practicing a hobby, having a better sleep pattern. Those are some of the things that you have to do. Yeah. Naturally, opening the unhealthy tap is easy. That's
Hmm.
why we all do. And opening the healthy taps is difficult because it's a long term game.
Hmm.
What I do is I consciously invest in healthy taps.
Hmm.
And having said this, I'm not saying that I don't have unhealthy taps. I have. I'm a human being after all. I also have healthy taps. I also have unhealthy taps. But I regulate it. I don't let it control my life. So far it has worked, and I hope this
Hmm.
particular visual metaphor that I'm trying to give you,
Hmm.
the stress bucket, might help you as well.
That's a very insightful answer, and I agree with that. Segregating what is unhealthy and healthy for you helps you. because this makes a structure for you that you can look upon for. But what the practical problem we face in our lives is, like, we all made new year resolution,
Hmm.
and we go on a good habit for 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, but after sometimes we exhaust ourselves and it is not sustainable enough. So what kind of suggestion you will like to give so that we can like sustain it in long run, because that
Okay.
will only
Okay, again, a very fantastic question, I would say. See, sometime back, I thought I will be picking up an instrument. So, out of all
same with me.
instruments, I thought I'll pick up violin. Okay. So, I bought a violin and I started playing the violin. And I got a teacher to teach me also, as well. I was horrible. Okay. It was so bad. It was so bad that after every class, the violin teacher will snatch the violin away from my hand, play something musical, get into the rhythm, and then go away. Okay.
Actually, same happened with me for guitar. I'm learning since past 6 months, and still I'm just stuck on the chords only.
That is probably the difference. I gave up in 2 months. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is whatever good you are trying to do, which is having a long term impact, will initially not be lucrative.
Hmm.
You have to get past that phase. Most people will give up in that phase. But if you can sustain that phase and get into the second phase where it is more about showing up every
Hmm.
single day and being building brick by brick, that's when it starts to take some shape.
Hmm.
And of course, it will take its time, it will take its course, and then one day, without you even realizing, you will start having that particular skill already in you in some shape and form that you really want to apply now.
Hmm.
So the key, of course, is consistency. I'm not saying anything new. A lot of people have said that,
Hmm.
but what I'm trying to tell you is the guitar analogy or the
Huh.
violin analogy. Why you give up and why you should show up every day, every single day, and build it brick by brick.
Hmm. So building on the career, some good habits, like for a fresh MBA as MBA guy coming out from the college, going into the corporate, what is the real differentiating factor that you see that will make a significant difference in the career trajectory? Because you have come across many people
Hmm.
working under you,
Hmm.
managing teams, you have observed many people,
Hmm.
and so I would like to ask, what is that single differentiating factor that you would like to say that can help people?
See, most fresh graduates, when they come from the colleges and then they join the job,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have found them that they are little bit, you know, they're a little bit inconsistent when applying an integrated knowledge,
Hmm.
right? So, if you talk to people who are from marketing, every time you pose a problem, they only look at the marketing aspect of it. If you put a problem with a finance person, the only lens that he will apply is that of a financial lens. But if you look at your own MBA journey, right, the whole first year is dedicated to building this integration. But the minute second year happens, that integration is forgotten. And that's what actually happens when you go to the job. That's where you bring your specialization, you don't bring the integration. I think at this stage, if people can start becoming more and more aware that the integration is as important as the specialization, that's what will bring a strong degree of differentiation. And by saying this, I'm not saying that every professional that I have met, every fresher that I have met, doesn't have doesn't have this integration. No, I am saying that whenever I have noticed somebody who is having that differentiation, it is this integration that is the biggest
Hmm.
differentiator. That is what I have noticed. Be it consulting job, be it internal strategy, be it corporate strategy, the roles just change, but the whole idea about having the integration with the specialization
Hmm.
is the key.
Yes, that's quite true, and I feel that micromanagement is not good, and the integration that you talked about helps in consolidating the teams and having a good output. I do
Right.
agree with it. It's a very impactful way of governing through the corporate world. So, talk like moving from this to macro perspective that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we talk about on a macro level, most of us struggle with the purpose itself most of the
Mm-hmm.
time. So, is it the money or the social cause? You have written one book also, na,
Mm.
Lens. that I have read, gone through very thoroughly, and in that also it's like again it's the same thing that is highlighted most is purpose itself. So in a very concise way for our audience, how can we find a way to navigate our purpose?
Again, a very interesting question and a very difficult question as well, because uh, see, not everybody is Sachin Tendulkar that at the age of 6 I'll pick up a bat and I'll say that yes, I want to play cricket, right? For some of us, finding a purpose will outlast us. We'll be dead and still will not know what is the purpose of our life, right? So it is not an easy journey at all. Yeah. But having said this, should we not try? Of course, we should try. We should try with the best foot forward, right? How do you do that? So, for doing that, you have to have some reflections.
Hmm.
You have to have the skill to reflect. Yeah. And that is not an easy skill again. That comes with a bit of experience. When you start making wrong decisions, when decisions don't go by your way, and then there are corrections, there are life events, that's when you start thinking differently and you start
Hmm.
reflecting on things. Okay. So my advice to people who are very young is at this point of time not to bother about what's right, whether money or purpose, but just focus on getting more experience.
Okay.
Start exposing yourself to randomness. Try to get
Hmm.
as much information, as much experience as possible. The more you expose yourself to randomness, the more there is a possibility of you finding the serendipity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a very
Uh-huh.
profound statement I'm making. The more you expose yourself to randomness, the higher the probability of you finding the
Hmm.
serendipity, which is nothing but the purpose, right? So just let yourself allow yourself that space. Don't be under any pressure to figure this out by x number of years, otherwise what, I am a dud, I'm a failure. No, don't entertain those thoughts.
Hmm.
Take your time. It will eventually emerge. It will take time, but it will eventually emerge.
Truly agree, sir. Experience is a very good factor in determining like what will be the way forward. And like building upon this, what I observe these days is so much clutter on the social media. There's information overload and very much news, so much technological improvement in the case of
Mm.
AI that the word we are so much bored upon is because in every session and everything AI comes up. So like so in such a information load environment, how can we make our purpose very aligned at the same time very much concentrated and focused?
Mm.
Because you get different things from the different on social media you hear this, on LinkedIn you hear this,
Mm.
and on YouTube some different guy comes up and talks about this is his life journey and also. So how can we make a clear plan about this?
See, again, I would say, the worst part of rubbish content is you
Huh.
still have to go through it.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
You still have to go through a really bad reel to say that it is bad. And by the time you say it is bad, it is already consumed.
Yes,
And
yes.
what the algorithm is doing is dishing out you the next rubbish reel, right? That's how the real world, that's how the social media is operating now. The more you see of a certain type, the more it will feed you, right?
Hmm.
So how do you do it? You have to snap out of it. You have to really feel whether it is really important for you or not. Okay. So again, there is something that you can apply. Maybe it works for me, maybe it will work for you. It's called the 3P model.
Okay,
So when you look at something, so you have to check with yourself that is it giving me profit, purpose, or peace.
that's a very
So
good way.
if you don't get any this type of any of the three from this particular content, skip it. And the next one, skip it faster. And you
Hmm.
will see eventually the feed is not going to serve you that particular type of content, and probably will give you something which is more meaningful and more appropriate for your consumption. So this is how you can hopefully handle the information
Hmm.
overload. Yeah. But having said this, in today's date, it is extremely difficult to bypass this information overload.
Hmm.
So the control is have to be with you. Enough distraction is there, so the control has to happen with you, and the 3P could might just
3P
be,
model.
yeah, could might just be the right way to go about.
I do agree, sir. Segregation is a very good strategy to find out what's good for you and what's not good. But what I observed is like there's a creation of echo chambers on social media, or do you follow some specific news forms only? So how to have a wider perspective and a good way to like what is a good way to navigate through this?
Through the information overload.
No, we create the echo chambers. The same things comes again and again. It's
Ego chamber.
echo
Okay.
chambers.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that is where your peace, profit, purpose will be very important. But yes, if you're saying that your purpose is feeding into the ego chamber, then it is very difficult.
Difficult.
Then it is very difficult. You're going to get served the same kind of content every now and then. The idea, I think, is more about understanding what truly serves you, and that will be more clear when you know that what you really want. Yeah. uh, if you are considering building a skill, then focus on how much of content you can consume from that particular skills perspective. So a way to look at social media today, or for that matter the internet today, is look more around what you can learn from it. That will kind of create the learning buckets rather than the ego chambers. Hopefully it will do. It will vary from person to person, but hopefully it will do what I'm trying to say here.
That will actually help in breaking up the bias and creating a long-term beneficial content
You
consumption for
basically
us.
focus on what you want to learn, and you basically create those buckets more mindfully.
Yes, bucket creation is a good.
Yes, instead of creating those ego chambers, you focus on creating the buckets that work for you. That's what you want to do in your life. I think that could be an effective strategy to handle.
So we have discussed some serious life questions and life purpose. So let's move on to some light-hearted questions also.
Okay.
So among the various roles you have done into your life journey, what what phase of a career you enjoyed the most, and what are various ways by which that acts as a stress buster for you?
Okay, good question. I personally enjoyed my stint working in India's largest conglomerate, that is Reliance.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. In Reliance, I have had many roles. I started out as a VC, then I moved into a strategy team, and then I was put into a education initiative in a tripartite CSR kind of an arrangement. Then I also happened to lead strategy and planning at Enterprise. So it was a variety of experiences that I have from a role perspective. Number two, Geo also was such a big an organization that every now and then you get to see some cutting edge technology as well. So that itself gave a lot of information and a lot of joy of learning to me. Yeah, I am somebody who likes to learn, keep learning things. Okay, so in that way, the job itself was giving me those opportunities to go. So I think I would clearly highlight them out. As far as de-stressing is what you asked,
Yes.
right? So de-stressing for me is so I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of painting, and all of these kinds of things. Hobbies is what I'm trying to allude to at this point of time. It's very important to have hobbies. And the best thing about hobbies is you don't have to pretend with it. You either like it or you don't like it.
That's really true.
Yeah.
So like the consulting, like I was very curious about your consulting career. So it was very stressful, and there were so many clients to manage. So how what were the ways by which you managed that stress?
Uh, See, stress management, as I said,
Uh-huh.
the bucket is the
Bucket
most
creation.
effective way to handle stress. Other skills that you can build which can help you manage your stress is around emotional intelligence. Yeah. It is around how you build assertiveness in your communication. It is also around how you remove hesitation, and how you receive and give feedback. These are these seem to be very simple skills, but it takes quite a bit to master them. Now, when you have a sort of plethora of options in terms of your skills, stress management becomes a little bit easy. And rightly said, it is managing stress, because stress is not going to go away. It is how you are going to handle it on a day-to-day basis. That is what is going to differentiate your well-being. Yeah.
So moving on, like talking about, as you mentioned, being assertive. So what I observed is sometimes being assertive crosses the border of being so much arrogant to the people. So how to balance like being assertive at the same time and having a respectful position for other person also.
Right. So
Like this especially happens in the client teams and client accounts where you have to push your idea to the client, but at the same time it's very hard to explain the client and you have to maintain a border. So
right. So, see, I think it again varies from situation to situation, but you are very right in pointing out, the aggressive, see, the assertiveness treads a very fine line
huh.
between who is aggressive versus who is passive, right? It sits right in the border of these two areas, right? So that's why it's a very difficult skill to master. Having said this, yes, with clients, you have to be assertive. Otherwise, you will end up doing more and not charging them. Yeah. Or you will agree to more than what you could possibly deliver. Right. So, how do you do that is the question, right? So, to do this, right, you have to understand your strengths and your weaknesses really well. You have to understand what is possible, what is not possible, and then you have to communicate the same with clarity, confidence to the client. And whenever it is needed to say no, you have to say no, that this is not in my purview. I have done that
Hmm.
personally, that's why I'm saying. But when you do it respectfully, even a decline doesn't feel like an insult. Yeah. It feels an inclusion. It doesn't feel like a insult, and it has to be done in a subtle way. It's a skill, I said, right?
Yes,
It's not like, I can do it overnight. It's a skill that you have to keep practicing, keep sharpening.
yeah, that's really true and a very good advice for us. So we went from a diverse topics, starting from the career journey to the hobbies, stress management, and in fact finding the life purpose itself. And it's was a very engaging session for us. So what's the final word of advice for us MBA people?
That's again a good question. So, see, I think that most of the audience of this and you yourself are a very young person, okay? And at this stage, as I said, just expose yourself to the variety of experiences. Yeah, just try to see what makes you tick, what's it that you like, okay? And you also understand that even if you like something today, it is perfectly fine not to like it tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't hold that in your with close to you, that okay, if I have made this choice today, I cannot go back on that. That is an absolute lie that we have been sold for generations. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the core thing I would advise, that make your choices, but at the same time, if you don't like them and if you can figure out some other way, take that without feeling the guilt, because you don't have the need or urge to explain your choices to anybody. Yeah. And
Hmm.
yes, do it more respectfully, so that it doesn't hurt anybody. The second piece which I also want to put it down as an advice is, try to see, because your schedules are very tight. Most of the time it is events and all that, right? Academics is there. There is less time to reflect.
Yes.
And I have faced this myself, because I am also done my MBA, right? So I know how it is. And reflection happens at a very later stage, and that I think is a fundamental gap. Okay.
Hmm.
So try to see if you can find some time in between your academics, in between your club activities, in between your events, and you can reflect on what's going on. Just slow yourself down a little bit, and then you
Hmm.
will be able to see what's working, what's not working, what's good for you, what's not good for you, and then you can have a more peaceful and more meaningful journey. So I'll just quote one more thing within the interest of time. It's great to have ambition, okay, but ambition should not feel rushed.
Hmm.
It should feel calm, okay.
Yes,
And
true.
that will happen when you start integrating reflections in your day-to-day life. Yeah. Not saying it's easy, it's very difficult, but I'm not saying it is impossible. So try to get started on that piece. Yeah.
That's really a thought provoking and an answer worth reflecting for. Thank you so much, sir, for coming to our podcast and
Thank you so
sharing
much for inviting me.
so much valuable information to us. Really,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being the audience of such an insightful podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to the Industrial Relations Committee YouTube channel.